California Emerging Technology Fund provided grants in 2015 to CSU Fresno and Valley Vision to conduct AgTech pilots in Fresno and Yolo counties. The results were reported at a roundtable during the 2018 World Ag Expo that quantified how broadband access for farms can support precision agriculture to optimize resource use such as water and fertilizer, and increase crop production, as well as enhance access to external markets. The AgTech Conference and Roundtable during the 2025 World Ag Expo spotlighted progress since then and framed an action plan to support agriculture in California.
So I'm Glenda Humiston. I'm the Vice President of Agriculture and Natural Resources for the University of California System. I am really thrilled to be here today. Thanks to Sunny, who has suggested that I come up here and help herd all the various cats, and we do have some wonderful cats for you today. I've got some great speakers up here right now to help kick us off with welcomes and overviews, and then we've got two amazing panels of folks that are working on this issue. And it's a critically important issue. We all know that California is a leader in feeding not only the nation but the world. Our agriculture here is amazing. We're also a leader in innovation and technology. And as we look at lack of availability of labor as well as just cost efficiencies and dealing with all the many challenges that agriculture and our natural resources that support it face, ag tech is becoming more and more critical to everything we do. And for that ag tech to be able to be utilized effectively and efficiently, we've also got to improve our access to the internet, particularly on our farm fields. We were part of a project a few years ago, UCA&R, along with Don Cameron's ranch, West Hills Community College, and a few other partners, where we actually flew a specially designed drone around the valley to test the bandwidth and speed of upload-download out across farm fields. It was abysmal. These robots, these drones, all this ag tech that we know we have to use are not going to function if they can't access the internet. So that's one of the key topics today. Before we get into the folks speaking exactly about that, though, I do want to call up the folks I've got behind me to share their thoughts about why we're here and where we're going. And Connie, you get the first word.
Well, good morning. Thank you. I paid all the people that are clapping to do that. If you were at the opening ceremonies, you're probably sick of me already, and sometimes I get sick of myself. But I am not sick of this. I'm so excited about this. I think you guys probably figured that out this morning. This and the flyover, it's my top two. But welcome. We're christening the Women's Ag Pavilion, Women's Conference Pavilion, but we welcome men too. We're just looking for another outlet, a place to let people share ideas, bring ideas, and talk about what's innovative out there. That's what we're all about at the World Ag Expo. We had our top 10 technology winners this morning, if you were at the opening ceremonies, and we're all about ag. I kind of think it's great that there's a lot of women involved in agriculture, so it's fitting that we're in the Women's Pavilion. Welcome, enjoy the show. I'm going to stay for this conference because it's never too late to learn, and we're going to hear the facts and the statistics and actually what's going on with technology. We can brag about it, but we got to access it. And every farmer I know farms with a laptop, at least, and we're showing off our tractors that drive themselves, but you got to have the bandwidth to do it. So welcome. I can't wait to hear all the speakers today and try to learn a little thing. I have a trouble with retention, but that's another issue. Maybe science can fix that. But welcome. I'm so glad that all of you are here this morning.
Thank you, Connie, and I'm with you. I'm still learning new stuff about all this tech myself, and it's fascinating. The guy who really makes this whole event happen, and I talked to him earlier, I have to imagine this weekend he's going to do nothing but sleep for 48 hours straight. Jerry Sinfit is the CEO of the International Agri Center.
Well, good morning. I want to welcome you all here on this cold Tuesday morning, but you should have been here yesterday. It was really cold. But I'm so excited about this inaugural session of this new pavilion, the Women's Conference Center. It's just something we've been working on for a lot of years. We knew we had to do this. You all play a critical role in agriculture, and we just wanted to celebrate that. So special thanks to Connie and to Megan and to Haley, who have made this happen. It was their vision and their leadership that kind of put this all together. So I'm here just to say welcome. We're glad you're here, and I'm excited to see you hear what's going to happen here this week. We have amazing speakers, I understand. So yeah, so just welcome from the the International Agri Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Here also to provide a welcome and also a little bit about Tulare County itself is one of our county supervisors, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, actually, Pete Vanderpool. Pete?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tulare County. How many of you, this is your first time ever coming to Tulare County? Wow. World Ag Expo, first time? Whoa, really cool. You were all contributing to the horrific traffic getting to the opening ceremonies on time. And by the way, I was called out for that, for showing up 5 minutes early. I wasn't late, but I was called out at the opening ceremonies for being 5 minutes early. So I just want to point that out. On behalf of the Tulare County Board of Supervisors, it really is a pleasure to welcome you here to this wonderful county. Tulare County is the home of the World Ag Expo. I have been on the Tulare County Board of Supervisors. I'm in my 17th year on the board. I actually took Connie Conway's place when she ran for the state assembly. This is where I was born and raised. I live in the district that I was first affiliated with this county in, and that's the district that I serve in today. Tulare County is home to 8 great cities with terrific downtowns for everyone to be able to enjoy. Whether it's downtown Visalia, downtown Tulare, we have so much to offer here in this county. And so many people don't even know that we are actually home to the world's tallest tree in the National Park, National Forest ground. Right over here, about 51% of Tulare County is actually in federal ground. That's ground owned by either the National Forest or National Park. It's pretty incredible what we have here. Our county is over 4,000 square miles in size. We are the size of the state of Connecticut. This is a great place to call home, and it's perfect that we are here today to talk about ag technology and the emerging needs and also emerging advancements in technology. I think COVID really showed all of us how important connectivity really is in this world, but especially in isolated areas that are rural, like Tulare County, and we do not have that high-speed internet infrastructure. We were left in the dark in many cases, even though we were one of the first counties to try to open back up during the COVID times because we knew how important it was to get our kids back in school. We really were lacking in the technology advancements. So we do feed the world. Tulare County is also one of the consistent top 3 agricultural counties in the entire country. It's between us, Kern, and Fresno County, all right here in this same area. And we have a lot of advancements that need to be made in technology, especially in the Sigma world, the post-Sigma world. As we see our water supplies cut back, how are we going to continue to feed this nation and feed the world? So advancements in technology are going to be really critical in making that happen. So having the World Ag Expo right here in the heart of agriculture is so important, and I encourage farmers, technology, purveyors, and anyone with thoughts and ideas as to how we can continue to feed the world from right here in this small valley. I encourage you to share those thoughts. So thank you for coming to this Ag Expo. I hope you enjoy your fried bologna sandwiches or, there's ribeye sandwiches, everything you want. Go support our great nonprofits here in this county. Those are all the vendors out here that are selling food. They are all local nonprofits, and this is a very significant fundraiser for them. So enjoy the show, and I hope this is very beneficial for all of you who are in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Our next speaker almost doesn't need an introduction. She has been a stalwart of California agriculture for many, many years, serving in many leadership positions to help us keep moving our ag forward. She's going to share some thoughts on why California's leadership is so critical to not only help develop but deploy agricultural technology. So with that, please welcome Secretary of Agriculture Karen Ross.
Thanks, Glenda. I've been running late all morning long, so I apologize for that, but I was in the middle of an interview. I'm on time now. Okay, well, I can talk and ruin that record right away. So it's great to see you all. I do have to say, it's been a couple of years since I spoke at the Women's Pavilion. This is a big upgrade, so I hope you guys enjoy the space, the flowers, and the coffee, because it used to be in a really tiny room. It was really crowded. So I just want to take a few minutes. It's things you've already heard, but it is so important that we all get excited about what we have here to see and touch, maybe drive, and talk to people about when it comes to agricultural technology. I've been telling people all morning, I love this show. It's in its 58th year, and all the volunteers that helped make it happen, and that it grew from the farm show, it was pretty local, to what it is today. And there's several reasons why I love it so much. First of all, it's kind of a celebration of agriculture, its history, its legacy, its traditions. But if agriculture only stayed stuck on its legacy, its history, and its traditions, we would not be the powerhouse #1 state in the United States of America, $59 billion farm gate value last year, $21 billion in agricultural exports, if we hadn't always been about the spirit of innovation and adaptation and embracing new science and really experimenting on our farms to do things better and better and better. And that's what's so exciting about, with all the challenges we have before us today, the opportunities that are also being presented, that there's more attention being paid to agricultural technology as part of the tech world. And it's hard to get the attention of the tech world. But I just want to remark on some really powerful partnerships that have happened just within the last 5 years in particular that are really helping to lead the change. And it's important because many of these large equipment manufacturers that are here today, I grew up with. Western Nebraska, big Midwest agriculture, huge fields of 3 or 4 commodities, that contiguous operation of things, big equipment at scale, collecting the data as everything goes through those fields. But how do we get the attention on the specialty crops that only grow in California? Our tree nuts, our tree fruits, our berries, our fresh produce. How do we draw attention to that? And that's really kudos to our ag associations led by Western Growers that now has an innovation officer in addition to sustainability officer, to the vision of Vice President Glenda Humiston with Ag and Natural Resources bringing on Gabe Yautze as the innovation officer, of people working together within their regions to really focus attention on for agriculture to continue to survive and thrive, embracing ag technology and making sure we have the connectivity to deploy it, not just from the home office, but in the fields themselves, is absolutely crucial to our future. Western Growers created a global initiative on global harvest automation. It was announced here at Ag Expo, was it 4 years ago or 5 years ago? Why isn't Walt here to keep me to ask about that? But they launched that initiative because they looked at specialty crops in California, in the West Coast, and around the globe, and said if we put all those specialty crops and the value of specialty crops and the growth of specialty crops and the nutrition of specialty crops into a basket, could we start to focus the attention of venture capital and existing equipment manufacturers, new equipment manufacturers, and others in precision agriculture to really see this is a place to make investment. And it's really started to happen. It was understanding, and this is with Glenda and Gabe's attention, that doing the trial work with farmers to accelerate the invention to the practical application in the field is absolutely where we need to be. And many times in my office, I'm sure when AG was secretary, there would be people that would call all the time. They go, I've got this great solution for agriculture, but they've never been to a farm or in a processing plant to actually understand there's a lot of challenges to making this technology work in the field. So doing that trial work. And then importantly, in California, we're proud of our agriculture. It's big. We have a lot of big farms. But guess what? 60% of the farms in California have less than 100 acres. How do we make sure we're also focused on appropriate scale technology for small and mid-sized farmers so they continue to thrive in an increasingly difficult atmosphere of competitiveness to be that successful? So if you haven't heard about some of the regional economic development plans that we've developed as the state of California under Jobs First, not one size fits all, because in California we're lucky to have 12 different drivers of our economy, and ag is one of them, but that focus on regions. I like to remind people, it just so happens that the 13 regions pretty much align with the FFA chapter regions when they have regional, just saying, you know, it's the base of agriculture that really matters, because we are the foundation to make sure that communities are healthy and thriving. Amongst those, the ones that I want to brag about the most are right here in the Valley. The Future of Food Initiative, UC Merced, CSU Fresno, UC Ag and Natural Resources, the Community Foundation, really focus on ag technology, not only what that technology is, but can we create it and manufacture it here and have yet another high-value export product. Agroecology, really making sure these small farms can continue to be successful as what they grow and do more direct to consumer, including added value with food production. Moving a little bit north, headquartered in Modesto area, is Beam Circular, which is all about the bioeconomy and circular economy, thinking about all the biomass that comes off of our fields, out of our dairy sheds, out of our processing plants, and how can that conversion technology turn that into useful products, maybe a replacement for expensive synthetic fertilizer, plastics, unbelievable conversion technologies that are being deployed up there, including for renewable energy as part of our carbon neutrality. And then further north of that is Valley Vision, which is also Prosper Together, which includes the Sacramento Valley, which is all about ag technology, connectivity, and sustainable local food production. Really adding in that layer of sustainability and resiliency to our food system that had a few gaps in it during COVID, because we've become so dependent on sourcing just in time from global supply chains. Huge opportunities, but can I say, it requires investment. And it requires support for our public universities, because we have the best public universities in the world that are not only education, but research, and because of the land-grant university and that public service mission of extending that information, translating it to on-the-ground practical application is one of the best assets we have for really moving this agenda forward. So, looking forward to all the discussions today. Sorry I took so much time, but let's get everybody excited about agriculture, not only what it has always meant to us and does mean to us on a daily basis, but let's get people excited about the next generation of talent and tools that will ensure California continues to be the producer of the healthy, nutritious, bountiful food supply that we all enjoy and love sharing with the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Ross. That was fantastic. Last but absolutely not least of this opening panel is one of our local state senators who represents Tulare and Kern counties, portions of those counties. And prior to her service in the state senate, was on the city council of Sanger. So Melissa Hurtado is somebody that truly knows what's happening at the local level, in the fields, and how important this subject is to the many, many, many ways we utilize broadband, the internet, and technology. So with that, Senator Hurtado, please.
Thank you so much for having me here. Good morning, everyone. Secretary Ross, it's an honor to see you, and I'll just kind of build off what she said and all the great work that California is doing. You know, when I first got into the state Senate back in 2018, I was the youngest woman elected to the California State Senate. And I mention that because there's almost like this expectation, right? I'm supposed to know everything tech. There's bad news and good news. I don't know it all, but the good news is that there's so much going on in tech, also as it relates to agriculture, that it gives me a lot of hope about the future of the Central Valley, the future of agriculture. There's a lot of opportunities. And in the legislature, we're making sure that those opportunities continue on, that everyone has access to those opportunities, because that's what's important. Obviously, there's challenges to innovation and getting the funding and the financing, but we want to make sure that we make that as accessible as possible to anyone that desires it. And when it comes to agriculture, I share this with my colleagues quite a bit, is that agriculture is not just about what grows on the ground. There's so much more tied and connected to it. I refer to it as One Health. Many of you may or may have not heard that word before, but everything is very much interconnected. Agriculture, animal health, food health, and environmental health. And so everybody should care about agriculture, because if you care about your health, you should care about agriculture. If you care about eating, you should care about agriculture and what happens there. And everybody should be supportive of it for those reasons. It's amazing the technology is out there. There's so much technology and advancements. I mean, quite frankly, it's difficult to almost catch up with everything and know everything that's out there. And it's a learning process for me, because there is so much innovation out there. And that's what keeps me hopeful. So I hope that your thoughts, and you feel that your thoughts are being welcomed, and that if there's any kind of support that you may need, that you reach out, because that's part of the process of moving ag technology forward. I mean, one of the things that our office is working on right now is wastewater surveillance. So we want to be able to expand that and provide the support. So when there's some sort of health impact on a farm, that we can contain it as much as possible so it doesn't impact the farmer, the grower. We can keep it localized and improve on those systems. The technology is there. I mean, I'm just surprised at the technology that we have. The question is, are we prioritizing? Are we providing the funding? Do we have the right plans? And when all that comes together, and you're all part of that, then it does. So I'm very hopeful. I'm about the technology that is out there, and I know that working with all of you, we're going to make sure that agriculture here in California can thrive and can advance and share the ideas and the education and the information all around the world. So with that, please feel free at any time to always reach out to our office, because that's what's going to continue to keep us going. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That was fantastic. At this time, I'm going to ask our first panel to please come to the stage, all of them, so that we don't have a lot of off and on. And you ladies are welcome to leave if you'd like. So folks coming to the stage: Gabe Yautze, A.G. Kawamura, Barbara Foster, Eric Haddon, David Tangipa, I hope I said that correctly. Close, I hope, okay. Alexandra Maceda and Jeff Gonzalez, if he's here. That was a gem. And for those of you in the back of the room, please keep your conversations down. We are recording this, and we'd like to get the recording as clean as possible. So with that, if folks would come on up, grab a chair. And you're going to tell me if I murdered your name, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all going to learn that pretty soon. Yeah. So with that, let me ask Gabe Yalty to please come up. Gabe is currently serving as the Chief Innovation Officer for UC Agriculture and Natural Resources. And I have to say, as his boss, that I am so thrilled with the job he's been doing. He has been going around the state, pulling together regional collaborations to really take our ag tech efforts and our business support for innovation to a whole new level, and really doing a great effort and then tying those regional efforts into a statewide network. So Gabe, please come on up and share some thoughts.
Thank you very much, Glenda. So, we've heard already, California really has been a global leader in agriculture for over a century, transforming what was a barren landscape into the nation's most productive food-producing region. We lead the U.S. in farm gate value. We supply the fresh fruits, vegetables, and nuts that form a foundation of a healthy diet. We also produce the highest quality dairy and meat products, and we grow the world's best cotton, Supima cotton. But maintaining this leadership in the 21st century is going to require more than tradition. It's going to take new technologies, a modern workforce, and smart policies that balance food production, environmental sustainability, and community well-being. So as Chief Innovation Officer at UC Agriculture and Natural Resources, my mission is really to drive that innovation to ensure California agriculture thrives for the next 100 years and beyond. So innovation in agriculture isn't new. California farmers and ranchers have always embraced new technologies, whether that's early mechanized equipment for the early 20th century to modern drip irrigation, which revolutionized water efficiency. But the challenges are growing. Water scarcity and increasing regulations around water, rising labor costs and a shrinking workforce, intensifying competition from foreign imports, stricter regulations on fertilizers and pest control, just a couple of the challenges. So how will California keep feeding the world in the face of these challenges? I believe it's through innovation. For over 110 years, UC A&R has been that trusted partner in agricultural innovation. My friend Sonny McPeak calls cooperative extension the original tech transfer to the people of California. And we've really been bringing those cutting-edge research directly to farmers and ranchers. But today, the next wave of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, robotics, cloud computing, those are reshaping our food system. But those things don't automatically translate into real-world solutions for farmers. That's why we created UC A&R Innovate, which is really there to bridge the gap between emerging technology and agricultural application. Our goal is what I would call responsible innovation. So helping ensure new solutions help farmers save time, cut costs, use resources efficiently, but also improve worker safety while supporting environmental stewardship. We don't do it alone. Collaboration is absolutely key. We work with industry, we work with government, we work with startups. Let me share some examples of innovations that we're working on together. Smart machinery and robotics have the potential to reduce labor-intensive and dangerous tasks on farms. Some of those robotic companies are in the audience, like Verdant Robotics. That's why A&R, Western Growers, F3 Innovate, and the France-based GoFar, we partnered to launch FIRA USA, which has now become the largest ag-robotics conference in North America. At our October 2024 event, over 2,000 attendees saw real-world robot demonstrations that help farmers evaluate and adopt the technologies. Events like these don't just showcase technology, they really accelerate the entire market, so making that automation a real practical reality on farm. California is also moving towards stricter regulations on chemical pesticides. Instead of just reacting, Western Growers has taken a very proactive approach. They lead efforts to scale up biological alternatives that are safer for the soil, environment, for health. Their Salinas Biological Summit, which will be in Woodland this year, in June, is driving that market forward. And it's really driving a major investment from the ag chem companies and attracting startups from around the world. I just met one from China this morning to test and commercialize these biopesticide applications right here in California. Beyond the farm, AgTech is becoming a major economic driver in our food-producing regions. A great example was already mentioned briefly, the $100 million Farms Food Future Initiative right here in the Central Valley. That was launched to help advance workforce development, innovation, local farming, and food systems. A shout out to the Ashley Swearingen and the Central Valley Community Foundation, who really brought together really thousands of people at this point toward that goal to create a new ag-tech-based innovation economy right here in the Valley. One result, the launch of F3 Innovate, a new nonprofit working with UC&R, San Diego Supercomputer Center. We're focused on bringing an AI-focused supercomputer hub for agriculture right here in the Valley. And that's being led right from the Valley, bringing resources here to lead the future. California's AgTech startups, you know, there's many are here, many I've talked to already, you'll talk to many as well. They're solving critical challenges. They've got the ideas, they've got the energy to create these transformative solutions. But innovators come from outside agriculture. They need the time, the funding, and the real-world farm experience to refine those solutions. So we created the Vine in partnership with Farmhand Ventures to help those entrepreneurs test, refine, and scale up their ag tech innovations. Through Vine Build, we transform university research into investable startup companies. Through Vine Connect, we bring global ag tech companies to demonstration sites at UC&R's research and extension centers across California. The next one is at our Hanson Research and Extension Center in Ventura in April. Please come join us. But we don't just test these technologies, we actively connect growers, startups, cooperative extension experts to really help accelerate these things forward. So in closing, just to say, California's ability to produce fresh, nutritious food is at stake. If history's taught us anything, California agriculture does not stand still. By fostering innovation, collaboration, smart policies, we can help ensure that California remains that global leader in food production while also strengthening our economy, our environment, and supporting our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Our next speaker is another one that almost doesn't need an introduction, our former Secretary of Agriculture in the Schwarzenegger administration, currently doing a wide array of projects that I'm sure he's going to tell you about, but one I'll mention because we're very excited at UC&R to be partnering with AG Kawamura on one of our research facilities where when we have some land that is not being utilized for research, he's growing crops on it that are going into a local food bank. And I just think that is such a win-win public-private partnership that we're looking to do much more of that around the state. So with that, AG, please join us.
Hey, thanks, Glenda. Good morning, everybody. It's just so exciting to be here at the Ag Expo because it's always a kid in a candy store. I'm still an active farmer, and you just can't believe all the great innovations and technology that's to be found here. I want to give a special thanks to Glenda, to Sunny McPeak, is Karen still here? Karen, these are some of the greatest disruptors that you'll ever see, change agents, but another person who's just that important is Robert C. sitting here, who is our former Deputy Secretary of Trade when I was in Sacramento, and one of the most innovative, best thinkers I've ever met. And his work to put broadband, along with Sunny, everywhere in this state has been a mission that they've been on, and you're getting close, is that right? Very close. So this idea of working with disruptors is something that's very important. My theme today originally was going to talk about the 21st century agricultural renaissance. And usually I have a slideshow that starts with a picture of an uncle, kind of not a real uncle, but an uncle of mine behind a horse with a plow, and talking about the fact that in a course of just this last 90, 100 years, there are many people that actually didn't have a tractor 85, 90 years ago and were actually using horsepower, the real horsepower, to plow their fields. And in the course of a single man's lifetime, to think that we've gone from that to autonomous tractors, which are out here, and actually considering putting a food production system on Mars, you can imagine there's a lot of progress being made in this very short span of time. In that short span of time, however, there's just been so many challenges for agriculture that have been overcome, have been addressed, or are still a day-to-day problem. And I was going to talk about in this Ag Renaissance how important it is to have a robust toolbox. And that toolbox needs to be constantly improving, and it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be available. But it doesn't mean that a farmer, whatever size you are, is going to use every tool in the toolbox, but you need to have access to the tools. And some of them might be a really tough pest control product that you don't need to use all the time, but sometimes if you get in trouble, you need to use it. Sometimes you need new tools because your soils need to be upgraded. But all of these challenges that we have as farmers are day to day. I have a violin, I can tell you, to say how hard it is to be a farmer in California these days, and it is. But one of the challenges I think that I was made aware of over and over again these past, since showing up in Sacramento and then being here 20-something years later, is our challenges with invasive species. I was just talking with a friend. There's a tremendous shortage of bees right now. The colony collapse is more than real. In fact, to the point where, if I'm not mistaken, maybe half of all the bees in the state are gone this year. There was a very tough winter, and whether it's the nosema mite, whether it's the nosema virus inside of the stomach, or the mite that gets on the bees, these are the enormous challenges for this area, which needs pollination. Many of you are aware that half of the hen-laying population of the state of California has had to be depopulated to address the avian influenza challenges that are not just in California, that are going around the rest of the country. And that has a terrifying impact on what might happen if we can't get a hold of all of this. Add on to that, this last year, I know we were on the one street away from a oriental fruit fly quarantine down in Orange County, and the poor folks in Riverside County, they couldn't harvest their citrus and some of their other products because of an enormous outbreak of fruit flies that took place since 2023 and onwards, where they had the greatest amount of fruit fly finds in the history of California, including, I think, 3 species that have never been seen in North America that were found here in the state of California. And that then opened the door for me to kind of change my discussion today. And I just wanted to read, I never read when I'm speaking, but I did want to read this, because what I wanted to make sure we understand as we're talking about the toolbox, the new tools, the diagnostics, the things that we have here at this show, and the things that we're working on, how important it is that we couldn't ask for them to show up sooner. In other words, we need them right now, these tools. So let me just read this, and then this will pretty much finish my presentation today. And the title of this, it's a invasive alien species problem statement for agriculture and stakeholders. So, the unprecedented introduction and spread of invasive alien species throughout our planet is accelerating at such an alarming rate as to rank as one of the most urgent threats to humanity and life systems and resources we depend on. The consequences of ignorance, forgetfulness, and policy negligence in addressing the needed infrastructure to prevent, exclude, detect, and eradicate invasive and opportunistic species has left our world vulnerable and predictably threatened. At any given time, like now, multiple outbreaks and infestations are occurring in countless locations across habitats and multiple dimensions of life systems. Introductions of invasives can be inadvertent, hitchhikers, weather-driven, hurricane winds, accidental, intentional, commercial introductions, illegal with biosmugglers and others, and of course terrorism-driven. Individually, they can appear to be discovered and hopefully contained, but collectively they represent a conflagration of barely controllable incidents of negative impact and catastrophic potential. The tragic experiences of humanity over millennia should give us good wisdom and informed instruction on how to build protective infrastructure and responsive mechanisms as we prepare for predictably unpredictable plagues, droughts, famines, wars, and collapse of systems that affect our capacity to sustain populations. Unfortunately, significant vulnerability continues to exist throughout our 21st century world as natural events, political upheaval, and poor policy decisions negatively impact regions and continents. As global populations continue to grow, The never-ending task for humanity will be to continue to produce and maintain a reliable and abundant supply of food, feed, fiber, energy, and water, if it can be protected. The role of agriculture in the multiple dimensions of life systems management and resource utilizations translates to the simple conclusion that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to fulfilling the nutritional and material needs of over 8 billion human inhabitants and their domesticated animals. Rather, an all-systems approach with an inclusive working landscape strategy utilizing a full toolbox array of ancient knowledge, current and new age technologies would deliver the best framework for a thriving agricultural sector. Concomitant with that, existing framework should be a robust and comprehensive phytosanitary barrier that focuses on prevention, exclusion, detection, diagnostics, delimitation, mitigation, and eradication planning. That same toolbox mentality to defend against invasive species needs to be constantly upgraded, improved, and strategically managed in order to build resilience. Plagues, pestilence, famines, outbreaks, epidemics, pandemics, and quarantines are the old and new, after-the-fact words we use when we forget our lessons of the past and present. Successful agriculture depends, therefore, upon our determined vigilance and commitment to invest in those areas that deliver more predictability for a positive harvest outcome. And I applaud all the people at CDFA, at USDA, at ministries around the world that are part of that infrastructure that helps protect those of us that are farmers from these pests. And I'll finish by reading one phrase that we mentioned that was kind of simple, a simple way to talk about why agriculture is important. No water, no farms, no farms, no food, no food, no peace, no peace, no future. And I know agriculture is a little bit more complicated than all of that, but the truth is these are very basic principles that we have to remember, and more importantly, at the state level, at the national level, we have to invest in these infrastructures that allow us to do what we do, which is what this farm show is all about. And so, Glenda, thank you for the opportunity to share those thoughts.
Thank you, AG. That was fantastic. And the point about invasive species cannot be emphasized enough. In fact, one thing I'll mention is that there's room for all of us to help in these kind of issues. That's a perfect example. In addition to the world-class scientists and researchers that we have across the state, we also manage almost 20,000 volunteers between our 4-H youth development, our master gardeners, our California naturalists, master food preservers, and other programs. In recent years, our master gardeners have really stepped up to help our county ag commissioners, our commodity groups, and others with early pest detection. They're now doing some specific projects around the state to help us keep the shot-hole borer and the spotted lanternfly and a host of other invasive species out that could be so damaging to our agriculture. And I, for one, actually think our master gardeners so far are what's keeping our citrus industry going. They've been working with local homeowners to get diseased citrus out of backyards so that it cannot get into the commercial groves, a strategy that's working in California. So with that, let me bring up a couple other folks who are working with nonprofits, local government, and other university systems. And I'm so sorry to say that Trish Kelly could not be here with us today. Trish is home with the flu, so I hope all of you are taking precautions. This flu going around is not something you want, believe me. But Trish Kelly has been a longtime person here in California working on economic development. She's been one of the leading voices on regional food systems, and not just analyzing them, but really pulling together the coalitions to make them happen. Her work and her team up at Valley Vision in the Sacramento area is truly inspiring. It's one of the best news stories around the state. So I wish she could be here, but I believe our next two speakers will give you some equally valuable examples of pilot projects that we're doing to launch this innovation. And first up, I'd like to ask Barbara Foster to join me. who's the acting director of our CSU Fresno's Office of Community and Economic Development. Barbara.
Well, welcome. I am pleased to be here this morning. Saddened that Trish isn't able to join us, but hopefully we can convey all of the things that Valley Vision has been doing since the pilot project and up until today. So, I was relatively new to broadband, and however, that is a group that is tremendously supportive. And they brought me into this world of broadband, and the significance of connectivity was reinforced when we look at some of the mapping, some of the infrastructure, and the deployment, which is doubly important with our farms. Because unfortunately, with deployment, we look at population and population density, and we know that our agricultural land often falls into that unserved areas of deployment. So that's a focus that we need to consider and continue to build on within the context of broadband expansion. As I was reading through the summary of the ag pilots, a couple of things struck me. The unique ways that CETF was supporting the work to move it forward, and how in 2015, how creative and innovative it was. And a natural connection was for Fresno State to be involved. They are a center in the valley of innovation and education, which moves this work forward. Valley Vision was working in Yolo County, and they took the perspective to not only look at what was happening within the context of broadband and mapping and those surveys, but they also surveyed 155 farms, looking at what are the connections that exist and didn't exist within the context of those farms. In addition to that, they surveyed 800 different farmers as to what are you finding in your property, what's happening on the ground that's going to impact how we move forward with these innovative precision agricultural technologies. Fresno State took a little bit different perspective, and to complement those studies, they provided actual hands-on field study that looked at 3 different farms and how water sensors can absolutely impact from planting to harvest. Within that context, we had 3 different growers of almonds, tomatoes, and grapes in that situation. We'll talk a little bit more about that in depth a little bit later. In Yolo County, the AgTech project really focused on looking at the growers' perceptions of what would be the benefits of AgTech and how would that help increase production, decrease costs, and improve the reliability of how we could predict what crop yields would be. From that study, they also determined that it would have been beneficial to have multiple studies to cross various seasons as we looked at the impact that weather and water that's been mentioned earlier have on the development of agricultural products. Broadband access also is critical to the delivery of small businesses, smaller farms, as Secretary mentioned earlier, and how we can focus on those farms, looking at education of farmers regarding the technologies and how we deploy it. Certainly the cost and the implementation of those technologies also has to be funded and a priority. Looking at, unfortunately, the gaps that continue to exist in broadband and present access issues is something that needs to be remedied and really provide a focus of policy and those that invest capital in the provision of significant improvements in our agricultural. Valley Vision's also been involved in aligning policy, advocacy, and working with infrastructure, deployment, creative rural broadband ag as a regional priority, not from a single entity, but one that extends all the way across the state of California. And of course, here in the Valley, we know how significant agriculture is within the context of our economies and the local businesses that are supported through that process. They've also leveraged the information to put together various aspects of not only the information around broadband, but how then do we plan for major innovations as well as the initiatives that support them. Looking at the Sacramento Area the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, they're one of their recent projects which provided the Sustainable Ag Lands Conservation Strategy just last year. It focused on 6 counties that developed profiles of those counties with priority areas including water, land, housing, as well as transportation and broadband. All of these things need to be impacted through a coordinated effort to move the process forward. One of the greatest impacts of this work was how it impacts the food system as experience with broadband mapping and the unserved areas that are indicated and identified through that process. I know that on the slides, the website is shared and you all will get copies of that. And I would encourage you to go to the website, dig down into the profiles of those 6 counties and see what exactly the work Valley Vision has done has provided in the way of this areas. One of their last funded opportunities also expanded in 4 counties, Sutter, Sacramento, Yolo, and Yuba. And in those, that report was in part identified the broadband gaps in areas, and especially those rural and ag lands. That mapping and zoning becomes very critical when we're looking for funding for additional deployment to connect those areas. The website has additional information and wonderful visuals as well that reinforce the critical need for expanded broadband coverage. Lastly, Valley Vision has been extremely involved in the USDA Southwest Regional Food Business Center, providing coordination, technical assistance, as well as capacity building. Without those capital investments and financial assistance that support regional projects through a coordinated effort, we don't utilize our resources to the greatest extent. There are a number of partners involved in this. It's one of 12 food centers across the nation, and the work that they are doing really celebrates the significance of partnerships, coordination to move this work forward. Now, Fresno State, my love, and being a Valley girl for, gosh, more than 7 decades here, I can speak to how important agriculture is within the context of the Valley and the benefits that it provides to not only the communities that we serve, but also the businesses and families that are a part of those communities as well. As I was looking at the Fresno State, I was struck by how significant education and innovation are at the heart of what they do within the context of the Valley. And through this AgTech project, we were able to find and actually demonstrate what the benefits of AgTech has within the context of our local farms. They were had a process where water sensors were deployed within 3 different fields of varying agriculture: tomatoes, grapes, and almonds. Those sensors were deployed, and the models measured specific water flow within the fields, and they were used to make real-time recommendations, which was amazing at that point in time. And considering the factors of weather, soil irrigation, the impact and development on the actual harvests, all the equipment was connected via wireless broadband. Without that connectivity, those studies could not have existed and presented the information. Without exception, each of the farms discovered that water, energy, and labor costs were reduced and crop yields were increased. This was the beginning of a concerted effort to extend the use of broadband and advanced technologies in agriculture in the region. The continued growth of broadband in agricultural regions is necessary to sustain domestic and international production and competitiveness. The pilot demonstrated the potential benefits of AgTech in 3 unique real-world farm environments. Eric Haddon is going to share what the university has been doing within the context since this ag study. He bridges the gap between the farm as well as the next generation of farmers to support those farms as well. Eric?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say it's a busy day here at the Ag Show. Thank you for bearing with me. I had to come all the way across campus. We were doing another presentation there, but it's great to be with you this morning. I am the Executive Director of the Water, Energy, and Technology WET Center on the campus of Fresno State. We are an incubator and accelerator for early ag tech, energy, and water companies. And really the way I like to communicate and talk about the WET Center is we're an intersection between the private sector and academia, all for the broader economic development of our region. And of course, a big part of that is introducing our students to these bleeding edge new technologies. At Fresno State, we have about 24,000 undergraduate students. 10% of them, roughly, are enrolled in the Jordan College of Ag. And these students represent our future workforce, our future employment base. They represent the future of ag here in the Central Valley. And so giving them access to these new tools and new technology on the farm becomes so critically important. And today I want to tell you a little bit about some of those new technologies, both on the pilot side and on the practical side, that we're using to really invigorate the workforce of tomorrow with the technology that they're going to be training with and utilizing day to day. So on our farm, we had some slides. I don't know if we have them anymore, but I will describe them to you. It's a much less interesting presentation without the pictures. But today here at the show, there is a Monarch tractor. It's an all-electric tractor that we're utilizing on our farm. We have 1,000 acres, and it is just that, the future of sustainability and the future of electrification on the farm. Our students, tell you what, let's keep going. Again, it's much better with the pictures. More. Oh, do I? I have a clicker. Look at that. Perfect. I love it. I can do it myself. There we go. So this is the all-electric Monarch tractor, which we are utilizing on our farm to introduce our students to what the future of sustainable ag looks like. This tractor is up to 70 horsepower. It has an autonomous function as well, so it can run entirely by itself. And we're using it every single day on our farm as a way to introduce what the future is going to look like. Now, there are a lot of students, and you'll see them here at the show. Drone technology is something that has been really at the forefront of ag for the last several years. A lot of people are familiar with it in the NDVI or multispectral application, so you're able to fly a drone over a crop and get real-time imagery as to the health of that crop. But we have also introduced this brand new unit over here, which, I don't even think the picture necessarily does it justice, but the sheer scale of this unit is absolutely huge. It's a new DJI Agris crop sprayer. So this drone is going to autonomously fly our crops and spray them without any intervention or interaction with anybody of the staff, with the exception of programming it from its very beginning. But really, it's also about training these students not only on the technologies that you're going to see here at the show, but the bleeding edge technologies that are going to be the next step, the next future. And so with that, we have a 1,000-acre farm on campus that we use as a pilot site demonstration to give entrepreneurs and innovators the opportunity to test their products in real time. And of that, we've got 6 specific area, the 6 acres of that farm that are really devoted to these bleeding edge technologies. Now, I can't necessarily show you any of the pictures of the folks that are out there now because that's how proprietary and experimental some of these things are, but I can describe to you, in fact, we just had some entrepreneurs that were on campus yesterday discussing the installation of a new shaded structure that is going to be a non-powered shade structure that doesn't use any water and will provide the people that sit beneath it an experience up to 20 degrees cooler in comparison to the ambient temperature. Now, this was a program product that was developed at the MBA program at the UCLA Anderson School of Business. They've come here to the Central Valley to try this product out on our dairy farms with the hope that we can alleviate some of the heat stress that dairy cows experience during the hottest times of the summer. So we're really excited about that program. Another pilot demonstration that we're focusing on are agrivoltaics. So the ability to put solar panels in a field while collecting solar energy. Of course, we're looking at right now kind of a sea change in terms of what lands are going to be available for farming, but this will give us the opportunity to introduce students to the technology that they will likely be encountering in the years to come. So at Fresno State, it's really about not only training students on the technologies of today, it's giving them insight into the technologies of tomorrow. Because again, at 24,000 students, roughly 10% of them in the Jordan College of Ag alone, we are the future workforce, the future economic engine of this region. And so with that, I would just say in closing, Fresno State's open for business. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful. We're really, really fortunate today that we've got quite a few of our state elected officials here. I'm going to be bringing them up here in just a second to share with us some policy perspectives about how we can accelerate AgTech. But before I do that, I also want to give a shout out to some federal partners, because in reality, all these initiatives, all this work we're doing is seeing some success because we're bringing the best from academia, from our government partners, and from the private sector working together. And when we do that and we do it well, it's truly amazing what we can accomplish. AG mentioned Robert C. earlier, but I got to give a shout out too. This guy who's here from U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development has been an extremely important leader in pushing broadband and rural infrastructure around California. So many, many, many thanks to Robert for all the great work he's done. And I also want to give a shout out to a new federal partner I just met this morning, Mary Fuller, who is here. She is the West Coast Regional Director of the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. And I know several of us, several of us worked very, very hard to get that office in California. And that office is critical to our innovation and technology initiatives. And I, for one, am thrilled Mary's here because she clearly knows ag, food, tech is critical as well. So thank you for being here with us. Now I'm going to have 3 of our state assembly folks come up. And I'm hoping to not murder David's last name. Tongipa. Dang, I got it. All right. I'm conscious of that because people murder my last name frequently, so I'm aware that's not a great thing to do. But David Tongipa, if you would please come up. He's with the State Assembly District 8 and share your thoughts. I mean, you're hearing some great stuff this morning. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I want to thank the Ag Show for inviting, and Sunny as well, especially here for the World Ag Expo. And so I may be a little biased because I represent Fresno County, the #1 ag county in the world. And also, it's an honor to be up here as well because I am a bulldog, so maybe I am even more biased. But one of the things that I've seen, and I participated in the Farm Bureau in the flag class, and there's a statement that I've always held on to that Ryan Jacobson has stated. The ag industry and farmers and growers and workers now are being asked to grow more food for the most population in the history of the world with the least amount of land, the least amount of resources, and the most regulations. And you have stepped up to the job and have done it. It's one of the most innovative industries is actually our ag industry in the way that we've operated. And so there's another one too that I had thought about. When Consolidated Irrigation District saw that their water levels they were overdrafting, back in the 1920s, what did they do? They built their own groundwater storage because they didn't need legislators or regulators to come in and tell you that you needed water because you knew what to do. And one of the things that I am actually extremely proud of is actually empowering again and working with a lot of our partners in the legislature to empower farmers to step up and to do what is necessary for them. When I look at AgTech and the innovations that we need, we've got to be incremental and have a full-scale plan. One of the areas that I've talked to, and I want to thank the Nisi farmers for bringing in the Secretary of the EPA under the last administration, not under this current one, where we had seen that there was a problem where we were pulling vines and we're pulling trees and we're chipping, but then we were a little bit too far ahead with that because we had seen that a lot of the chipping that we had, we can't put it out into our fields because it's filled with disease and vines, but now we have these large-scale smoldering piles. And what I want to do is avoid putting the cart before the horse and really empowering, again, the industry that knows better than us in Sacramento, even though I'm in Fresno and Clovis. And I do think that we can really work and create more of a symbiotic relationship, that those should be in the room helping us create those policies. Another area that I've been looking at, and one that I'm extremely proud to see, is I've been talking to, and it's right here in Visalia, so I'll give Tulare their credit, but we have Aqua 4D, where we're looking at reversing the polarity behind water, so that way we can expel or attract certain molecules and essentially creating the enzymes that we need. That there's a pilot program right now that they're utilizing here locally to see if there's potentially a 22% increase in just turnout on some of the produce that they have. Well, that's amazing. Those are the innovations that we really need to push and really need to embolden and highlight what we can do. That if we're asked to use less water, how can we utilize less water and actually produce what we need to produce today? So I'm just excited to be a partner. I'm excited to be a voice in Sacramento and to help carry that fight where we've got to really highlight here our areas. I mean, the #1 ag producing region in the world, Fresno, Tulare, Kern, Kings, Madera. I've been told that, and we saw that Ukraine was the breadbasket of Europe. We spent over $450 billion protecting the breadbasket of Europe when the breadbasket of the world is in our backyard, and we need to see it as a vital infrastructure here just as much as we identify anywhere else. And so it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to join all of you. We're fighting for farmers. We're fighting for ags. We have the #1 industry in the world. We do the best job in the world because we feed everybody so that way they can be the lawyers, doctors, and innovators, and everything else. We handle that. So it's an honor to join you all today. I always want to make sure I'm thanking Connie Conway. I don't know where she's at, but we all know that she's working. So it's great to be here, and go Dogs.
Thank you, David. I'm particularly excited to invite our next speaker up because not only is she a Tulare native, but she is a 4-H member, yeah. As a lifelong 4-H'er, I really appreciate that. And I have a hunch you've got more perspective than some just because I saw in your bio you and your mother founded an engineering and consulting company. So please, Alexandra Macedo, please join us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Macedo. It's so good to be home. I was in Sacramento last night and made the drive, so every time I drive in, I just breathe a little bit easier when I'm here. But it's truly an honor to represent the best district and the top ag district in the state because I have Tulare County, Kings County, and South Fresno County, and I make sure that that's heard loud and clear in Sacramento. Ag is the reason why I pursued this job. I grew up on my grandparents' dairy farm. My mom and dad also own the oldest livestock market in the state of California. I'm the 4th generation, the first female there. And I tell you this story because growing up sitting on the tractor with my grandfather compared to going out to a field or a dairy farm or a livestock market today is a very different experience in my 30 years of life. And what I will tell you is that is because of the incredible innovation and adaptability of the agricultural industry that we are so proud of. As David said, we are forced to produce more with less, and we have risen to that challenge every single time, but we are at a critical point in the state of California. So to give you some background, I graduated with my undergrad, came back home, and my mom is a civil engineer, and I started working in her office. And we did project design, management, permitting, and compliance. Well, on the permitting and compliance component, our projects were taking a really long time or they were denied for reasons that really didn't need a justification other than because I said so. So I decided to take it upon myself to go to law school. So I worked during the day at the engineering office. I would commute to Clovis to San Joaquin College of Law, and I'd go to law school at night because I wanted to make sure that ag felt that they had a defender. And one thing that I recognized very quickly is there's people fighting in the courtroom, but who's fighting in the regulatory space? Who's making sure that the unelected bureaucrats understand the science and the data that we win on every single argument? Once again, really enjoyed starting my own business that was able to be that voice for ag, but I recognized very quickly that I was only able to do that for my clients. I wanted to do that for all of agriculture, which is exactly why I pursued this job of being the newly elected Assemblywoman for District 33. And when I thought about what committees I wanted to serve on, I knew that one of the most precious resources we need is water, so I'm proud to say I'm Vice Chair of Natural Resources. And the other component that I saw of agriculture was the tech space and how quickly the tech space was going to be growing for agriculture. And all of the data shows right now that the most rapid career area for agriculture is within the tech space. So I also am excited to serve on the Consumer Privacy and Protection Committee at the state level, and that is where all of the technology bills go through. And I tell you this because another big component for me is I love AgTech. I love what it's doing. We're seeing higher yields. We're seeing greater animal protection. We're seeing efficiency in our use of resources. But we have to also remember a key component is we don't need AgTech unless we protect agriculture and protecting the future of agriculture and marrying those two together to make sure that we have a sustainable future. So as somebody who grew up here, like I said, it's wonderful to be home. I promise to always be a vocal advocate for agriculture and the growth of the tech space in Sacramento. And there's so much optimism and hope in our state. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker for this panel, Jeff Gonzalez, I'm thrilled to have up here. He actually comes from a little south of here, over some hills down in the Coachella Valley, and prior to his service in the state legislature, was with the U.S. Marine Corps for over 20 years. So, Jeff, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to try and compete with these two right next to me because they're behind me. Might throw something at me, but I'd be remiss to not. You have in the audience the chair of agriculture in the assembly, assembly member, and the vice chair, assembly member Alanis, with us here today. The reason why I wanted to introduce them, and obviously my colleagues right next to me, is because in agriculture, especially in the committee, we are growing. And we are growing in such a way that we want to be able to protect agriculture. It's important. You know, I look at this space. I have a very large agricultural county, and I look at this space from a Marine's perspective. And that's, I need to protect ag and every single piece of it. It is a part of our critical infrastructure. It feeds the nation, it feeds my house. So it's important that I protect what feeds my family. And I sit on this committee, and I look at what ag has done, what ag will do, and the future of agriculture. And I say, not only do we need to be united with a common voice of protection, but united in a common voice of innovation. So I'm excited to sit here and join my partners and say, I'm looking forward to what ag has to offer and the innovation that it has from day one to the future of agriculture. So thank you so much.
Thank you to all our speakers up here. If you all would like to go ahead and leave the podium, I'm going to ask the next panel to please come up. Mike Rohde, I hope I said that right. Oh, yay. Linda Thomas. Jeffrey Seed, David Tapia, and of course our chair and vice chair, Esmeralda Soria and Juan Alanis. And then Congressman Brad, he's not here? It's a video, okay. So we have a video of our congressman. And our sheriff is a video. Okay. Great, so folks would come on up, yay. Got to do those photo ops, yep. Okay, so this next panel is going to dive into how innovation is actually applied, how it's getting into action at the field. And we've got some great examples. I do want to take this moment, though, to shout out to Sonny McPeak for actually organizing this thing. Sonny is really the force behind pulling this together, getting all of our great speakers here, and helping make sure we've got this venue and all the folks on it. So with that, let me ask our first speaker, and this is two folks that are working on a really exciting project with Terra Nova Ranch and CalNet, a pilot project. And first up, Mike Rohde. Mike, oh, there you are. Sorry, thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks, everybody. Let's go back one. Okay, my name is Mike Rohde. I'm the CEO of a company called Emergent Connects. I am incredibly humbled and happy to be here. If you're not from the ag industry, when you get introduced to ag people, it's incredibly intimidating because everybody starts with, I'm a third-generation farmer, I'm a fourth-generation farmer. So I like to say now, I'm a second-generation telecom guy. My parents worked for AT&T when I was a little kid, but this is something I've been doing my whole life now. So. And I'm really, really excited to be here because having heard all these speeches and even what Glenda opened up with, I feel a little bit like the cavalry that's coming in, because what we're going to do with our partner CalNet out here in the Central Valley is try and close that connectivity gap that everybody has talked about. Glenda mentioned it in her open, Barbara was talking about it, but it really is something that is profoundly problematic. And if you could just imagine for 1 second what your personal life would be like if you weren't constantly connected to the internet. Just driving here this morning, if your GPS maps went off for 10 seconds, many of us would just drive off the road and run into something. And what is insane to think about is that we send some of the most important people and industries in the world, our farmers, our growers, our ranchers, out to do their jobs with zero connectivity. You can't even check on the safety of your workers if you don't have connectivity out in the fields. And that is, it is really stunning to think that we still have places in our industries where that exists. So with that, I just want to start by talking a little bit about how we're going to go do that, and then end on an example that we're doing that we've had great success with Terra Nova Ranch and Don Cameron, who's been an advocate for this for a long time. But before I do that, I do want to say the way we do this in our business here is we partner with the local rural internet service providers, and CalNet is one of our most important partners. I've known some of the folks at CalNet forever, and if it wasn't for the folks like CalNet who are working tirelessly to push broadband further and further into some of these rural communities, we would literally be back in the Stone Ages. So with that, I do want to acknowledge Linda Thomas, who's been an advocate for rural communities, rural broadband, the farming and agricultural industry, and has relentlessly and tirelessly advocated for getting some of this connectivity problems solved as we go on. So what are we going to do about this? So what we're doing at Emergent and CalNet is we're basically going to build a brand new wireless network to cover the entire Central Valley. And this network is purpose-built for the agricultural and other industries that operate in these rural communities. We're using a technology that we won't have time to get into today, but it is explicitly designed for all of this AgTech to work, right? It is an internet network for machines to communicate with each other. It is not for human consumption. You can't use it to stream Netflix while you're on a break, but what you can use it for is for all of the AgTech that's been talked about today, to have pervasive and consistent connectivity so that you could rest assured as either a developer of AgTech or as a user, if you're a farmer, a grower out in the area, that you could go out and invest in AgTech and know that you've got connectivity above your farm. And that's really, really important, because in today's world, if you don't have assurances that you'll have access to that connectivity, then you will be very reluctant to invest in AgTech. So if you're a farmer, and we know that the AgTech adoption rates is far too low in this industry, part of that is driven by the very things that we've been talking about all day today, which is that connectivity is not always available to you. So why would you go out and spend, the analogy, and it's probably apropos being here in California, but why would you go buy an electric car if you didn't have any way to charge this out on the open roads? And that's really part of the dilemma that you have with the lack of internet connectivity and how it affects AgTech. So when you do have AgTech available to you, and when you have internet to make it go, you could do some really remarkable things. So one of the things we want to talk about is what we did at Terra Nova Ranch with Don Cameron, who's been an absolute advocate for AgTech, water conservation, and sustainability. And he reached out to our our partners at CalNet to really get this project going. And basically what we did was deploy a network over his entire farm. And from that, we essentially completely automated the entire irrigation process. So the manner in which we did that was by establishing the network and then deploying more than 100 sensors onto the farm, everything from soil moisture sensors to actually measure the amount of moisture that's in the soil and the ambient temperature of the soil and the humidity levels, to what we refer to as control valves. And those control valves, what they really do is they sit on the well pumps, they sit on all of the valves, and they distribute the water in a 100% automatic fashion. So you could literally, the Terra Nova Ranch team can literally water and irrigate their crops from an iPad, day in, day out, on a everyday basis. So as you could imagine, when you do that, it really, really creates some great opportunities. And one of the really critical things that Don had testified about at the FCC subcommittee on precision agriculture is he testified that by doing this on the fields that we had lit up, the water consumption reduction equaled 10% or more. So just think about that. If you extrapolate that number alone to all of the farms throughout the valley, if they can reduce their water consumption by 10% just by investing a relatively small amount of money in AgTech, when companies like Emergent have that network above your heads, how insanely, profoundly important and impactful it could be on water conservation. And then the other little side benefit of this is, as a farmer or a grower who invests in the AgTech, there's very real cost savings to your business. So one of the other things that we notice is that when you can automate these processes, you could save an enormous amount of money on your operational expense to the tune of 20, 30, 40% reduction. And we know one of the other large issues affecting farming out here is the rising cost of labor. So if you could redeploy those resources to things that are a little bit more nuanced, and you can save on your labor rates in terms of doing very mundane things like turning on valves and standing out there while they water for hours, you could really have an impact on the profitability of your own businesses. So with that, I just want to say thank you for letting us talk about this a little bit. If you need to learn more, if anybody wants to learn more about what we're doing with CalNet, we'll be over in the booths. And we'd love to talk to you a little bit more. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
And also part of this project, Linda Thomas. Please join us from CalNet.
Good morning. I just want to say something real quick, and that is that this project with Terra Nova checks all the boxes. So we were able to put a tower up on his land. As Mike said, put all these sensors in the ground. We put the lower-band radios with Emergent's help and partnership. And basically, not only is he gathering all that data, Emergent built a dashboard for his workers. And so we upskilled his workers. These were people that were going out at 2 a.m. in the morning and physically turning on pumps. And we upskilled them, so now they are learning how to gather data, reading information off a dashboard, and learning how to do continuous improvement. And so besides saving 10% in water, upskilling workers, providing broadband to Don's farm, his shop, his home, and a 7-mile radius around his home. So all of the farm workers, all of the people who live in that area and their children have an opportunity to access that broadband as well. So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win situation. So kids have access to broadband for homework, water's being saved, sustainability and conservation is happening, and workers are being upskilled. And so this is the way it's supposed to happen. Don also increased yields. And there's absolutely no downside to this at all. And we did 3 iterations of this project with Don Cameron. The first one was 100 acres, then we did 200 acres, then we did over 1,000 acres. And so we can do this with any sensor that you have. This could be a sensor that opens and closes gates. It could be a sensor that tracks assets. It could be a sensor that does water and tank measurement. It could be a sensor that a cow, put on a cow's ear that they swallow, and you know everything about that cow for its whole life. And so automation can gather any data you want. And it's possible now, and Don's fields are working fields, so this wasn't a tech experiment. This is a real life deal that's happening. A week from today, we're having a luncheon out at Harris Ranch for growers to learn more about this project. And so if you know anyone who would like to come and learn more about this, we would welcome you to it. It is for growers, so I just want to emphasize that, and we'd like to talk to you more. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a very exciting project, so I urge folks to join them. Another exciting project we've had going on for a long time, a partnership with West Hills Community College, USDA, and several others, is next up. And we're fortunate to have the Vice Chancellor of West Hills Community College here, Jeffrey Seed, to talk about the Rubicon project.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm excited to talk to you today about Project Rubicon, which is an acronym for the Rural Broadband Initiative Co-op Network, and is part of a USDA grant that I'll share more about shortly. But I want to introduce West Hills Community College District. We were established in 1932. We're right here in the Central Valley of California on the western side. We cover a very large service area of nearly 3,500 square miles. Most of that is agricultural land, and so we're very familiar with the challenges that we face not only on the agricultural side, but on the residential and commercial side when it comes to broadband connectivity. We span 5 counties. We're primarily located in Fresno and Kings County. And we have 3 brick and mortar locations. We have Coalinga College, Lemoore College, and then we have a center as an extension of Coalinga College up in Firebaugh. We were recently awarded $1 million in funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Broadband Technical Assistance Program, to form a rural broadband cooperative. This is really an innovative approach that was a culmination of over 15 years of effort from past leaders within West Hills Community College District, along with many other partners that have propelled this project along the way. And it's innovative because it's a focus on not only broadband, but also agriculture, digital literacy, and adoption. And one of the main outcomes that we're hoping to achieve with this project is to create a co-op in a box model that allows others to deploy this same framework and same process across the nation, really, to create cooperatives and help solve some of the broadband challenges we face in rural areas. And really, Project Rubicon parallels the 20th century electrical co-ops that brought equitable change to rural America. There's 4 major outcomes to Project Rubicon. The first is a feasibility study and market analysis, really to understand at a fine grain what the needs of our diverse communities are. And we have a general idea, but part of this project, we really wanted to start with that foundational understanding and conduct in-depth market analysis and feasibility study to understand what the data says, what it'll look like to meet the needs of these various communities. And so that's a very exciting work going on right now, all culminating into the formation of a broadband cooperative that is member-owned, community-based, community-driven. The pivoting point after the cooperative is formed, hopefully by the end of the calendar year, is to focus on digital literacy and education. When we were writing this grant, we recognized that getting broadband connectivity is only part of the challenge. We want to be able to empower our communities to fully adopt and leverage broadband technology once it's available. And that goes not only for the residential side, but also the agricultural side, which brings me to the purpose of the presentation here today, And one of the main outcomes is to enable growers' adoption of broadband in the fields. And that takes on multiple forms. Similarly, we recognize that just getting broadband to the field was only half the challenge. We want to enable growers and farmers to fully deploy, adopt, and leverage that technology that we're able to see showcased here today. Local decision-making and control is one of the foundational principles of the Rubicon project. This is a conceptual model that we put together. We have a steering committee that's comprised of local representatives from counties, cities, water districts, farm bureaus, school districts across the service area, really making sure that the voice of the communities that we're serving is heard and represented. There are also 3 subcommittees that are crucial to informing the steering committee throughout this process. The first of which is the CBO subcommittee, community-based organizations, really making sure that we're understanding the communities that we serve, driving community outreach, engagement, and communication efforts that will be infused into every part of this project. The second is a broadband technical subcommittee that will advise the steering committee on the technical aspects of broadband deployment, advise on various technologies, and ultimately create a framework and standards that we can deploy throughout the region. And then finally, we have a farming subcommittee, which will focus on the unique needs of agriculture and farming communities within our service area to bring and deploy broadband technology to farms. And this group will also be essential in forming a framework and going back to that co-op in a box model that we can allow other growers to deploy throughout the service area and really across the nation. So that brings me to my call to action for today. Input and participation are needed. We want to hear from farming community experts and innovators, growers, to bring everybody together and close this digital divide and help inform our Rubicon project, our steering committee, on, again, not only the unique needs, but some of the exciting solutions that we've heard about today, so that we can propel this forward. I invite you to connect after this presentation. I'm also joined by David Tapia. David standing in the back there. He is our project director for Rubicon. So I highly encourage you to reach out. If you're involved in this space, if you are wanting to get involved in Project Rubicon, specifically within the farming and agricultural side, we'd love to connect and love to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our Tulare County Sheriff, Mike Boudreau, I believe is coming up here to provide some thoughts on the importance of how we are protecting our investments in AgTech. So Mike, thank you very much for your service.
Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much. Well, hello, everyone. It's sure a pleasure to be here today, and I'm going to try and keep this within 5 minutes. If I can do 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to be, far exceeding what I normally do, because I can carry on for hours in regards to agricultural community, the importance of protecting what we are and who we are. So I see the technology, I see the bandwidth, I see the ability to communicate with each other. Here is a significant issue for all of us to become aware of. There are criminals out there who want to make money through criminal means. The more money you spend on something, the more material or advancements that you have on your farm, your ranches, your dairies, they're going to take it. And so it's important that we have to identify areas in which we can collaboratively work together as well as communicate together, understand the value of those properties and how those properties will be stolen and taken away from our farmland. That becomes important for us. Tell you a real quick small story. We had $500,000 worth of pistachios stolen right out of Tulare County. And for me, when I first was briefed on the case, I thought, how in the world are they getting away with $500,000 worth of pistachios? Well, what they did through technology is they circumvented the bidding system and was able to make fake manifests to land at a pistachio processing plant with fake manifests, fake driver's license, stolen car, replaced GPS, stolen license plates, and they showed up at the location with fake managed theft, and they walked away with $500,000 worth of pistachios, of which we found at the LA Port Harbor, where half of the load was already on a ship to Saudi Arabia. So I tell that story because you need to understand that the more money you spend, the importance of protecting that property is going to be that we understand the ability to communicate and use advanced technologies for the benefit of evidence collecting, and understanding that there are people who want your stuff. We also have where they show up on 40 acres of citrus, ready to be harvested. Well, they show up with their pickers. Well, there's no oranges there because they were completely harvested the night before. The ability to have video systems, broadband, the ability to communicate with each other, while networking with law enforcement becomes important. Here's what I'll tell you. I have ranchers, farmers, dairy. What they'll say is, look, we didn't call you on this theft because we were so busy in the day, and the value of this is not going to, really be important. Well, it is important for law enforcement because what do? We use databases. We use the information. We use the evidence to begin to isolate and put within these systems that you're talking about areas of likelihood of criminal theft taking place. Even though we had diesel stolen or we had copper wire theft or whatever theft that may be, we begin to enter that into a database system where we have 3 different analysts that focus on agricultural crime. And so if we have that information to be able to collect and put into the system, then resources can be deployed for the investigation of those types of crimes. I really like the advancements in technology. I really like the ability for us to track through GPS systems and or any other ability to communicate. But some of what you're going to do to protect your property in the future is going to rely on and the importance of your investment in that technology. It would be great. I was talking to a friend of mine in the back of the room earlier, and she said that we're getting to the point we're having to completely encompass our property with cyclone fencing and razor wire. Well, we shouldn't have to be that way, but the reality of it is there are real criminals out there. So wouldn't it be nice if we had cheap, reliable systems, as we're talking about, where we could have camera systems in place and or advanced technologies to be able to communicate with farmers, ranchers, dairy, and law enforcement. So as we're talking here today, understand that the advancements in technologies are incredibly important. But more important, you have to share that information with law enforcement, and you have to become the protector of your property. Don't be ignorant in the fact that if you don't put systems in place to protect your property, you will become a victim. And we have to have the ability to take that data, identify our suspects, arrest those people, and hold them accountable. So when you're protecting your property, think about GPS systems, think about innovative drone systems, think about sensors, think about the broadband and the ability for that system to communicate back to your security systems, and more importantly, that information is shared with law enforcement. I can go on literally for another hour. But I wanted to be able to package it into a small presentation where you understand that if you're going to invest, understand it will be taken if you don't take the first step in protecting that. Collaborate with law enforcement, use technology to protect your technology, and make sure that we can do what we can to collect evidence to prosecute people and hold them accountable. Not only just locally, but when I talked about the pistachio theft, this is international theft that's taking place right here in the San Joaquin Valley. Okay? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. I kept it within 6 minutes, I think it was. And so you guys have a great ag show. And if you have any questions, law enforcement's all over the place to be able to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. So I'm really excited that we've got with us the chair and vice chair of the Assembly Ag Committee. Esmeralda Soria, who is currently serving as the chair, is from that county a little to the north, Fresno, but she's also a local government person serving on the city council up there, which I think really gives you a feet on the ground, boots on the ground kind of view of everything that's going on. I was also really excited to see that we're both alumni of Davis and Berkeley. Yeah. So anyway, Esmeralda, please.
Thank you, Glenda. So good morning. I think it's still not noon yet. I do want to say First and foremost, thank you to the World Ag Expo Chairwoman, Connie Conway, all the partners for making today's event here, all the panelists happen, Glenda for moderating such an important topic. And so I have the privilege of representing Assembly District 27. This is my second term, and my district includes 2 of the 5 top ag producing counties. That includes Fresno and Merced County. I also represent Madera, which is also an ag producing county. But more importantly, I will say that it is great to be home because I actually grew up in Tulare County. I was raised 20 miles east from here in the city of Lindsay. And so it's great to be here with all of you. So as we've heard this morning, AgTech is really transforming the way that we produce food, making farming more efficient, sustainable, and resilient in the face of the changes that we're seeing with climate. In regions like ours, where agriculture is obviously, we've heard, the backbone of our economy, adopting AgTech is not just beneficial, it is essential for the future of agriculture. Because as was said by my the former panelists, my colleagues, we are now having to produce more with a lot less. And so that's how AgTech can really help our community. And so the great thing is that California has been at the forefront of ag innovation, which I will be very honest, as a kid of farm workers. I'm a product of farm workers that, harvested crops up and down the valley. I never thought about technology and ag together, right? I always thought about technology as something from Silicon Valley. And I think that's kind of what most of us think about when we think about technology. But what we're seeing now, that today, there's been a lot of ag innovation and technology, and it is happening here in our local community. And that if we want to really make sure that we continue to be that breadbasket of the world, is that we're going to really have to continue to embrace innovation to ensure that we're securing the future of food here in our local communities. And so we've heard today that AgTech matters for sustainability. We are seeing it for water conservation, smart irrigation system, which we know reduce wastewater, crucial in drought-prone areas like here in the valley. Many of the communities that I represent, for example, in the West Fresno County, those areas that have experienced significant drought years. We also know that it's important for soil health and regeneration. So we've heard, precision farming techniques help maintain the fertility of the soil and really reducing the overuse of applying fertilizers. We also know that these technologies can help reduce the carbon footprint, automation, AI-driven research management, and also alternative energy use. And so I know personally that the state has made some investments. Do we need to make more? Absolutely. In the last 2 years, I have advocated for one of the most important programs that we have here locally serving our farmers, the Farmer Program. And so in the last 2 years, we were able to put $77 million in our budget, even in a tough year like last year, to ensure that we really make this program work for our local community, so that those old tractors are being retired to these, electric tractors, which are much more expensive. And so these dollars are important so that we have accessibility, especially for those small farmers that don't have access to greater capital to be able to replace their older equipment. And so I'm very proud of that work that we have done. There is more work to be done at the state level. I'm excited to hear about what local pilot programs are happening here in our local community. I also proudly represent West Hills Community College, State Center Community College, which are doing some innovative things within the community college system. Proud to have supported and just excited about the investment that came from the federal government, $65 million to invest in the F3 program, which our community colleges, State Center, Merced College are a part of, as well as our higher institutions, our institutions of higher learning like UC Merced, and Fresno State. And so what I've learned, I will say that we have to all come together to the table to work on not just pilots, but to demand that there's investments both from our state and our federal government so that we do have sustainability within our ag community, especially here in our valley. And the last thing that I will mention, the other component that is important for the future of ag is the workforce. And so as we're developing this, the new technology, it is important that we're investing in our students who are going to be, the engineers and those computer scientists and those that are, creating this new technology. But we also can't forget the farm workers. And I bring that lens as a child of farm worker parents who also in their time as they moved up from the fields to a packing shed, my father with a 7th grade education had to learn how to use a computer 20 years ago in the packing shed. And now in doing tours and looking at these packing sheds, more technology is happening. You're using less people. And so we're wanting to make sure that these farm workers are also upskilled, which is, I know, part of what the F3 program is doing. But I will mention, and you guys heard it from me, because I've been meeting with the stakeholders that have been developing the curriculum for upskilling our farm workers. The challenge that we have is their immigration status. And so that's a challenge that we're going to have to grapple with as a community. And we know that our agricultural industry depends on immigrants, and half of them are undocumented, and that's the reality. And so as we continue to grapple with ag tech innovation, we have to not forget that the workforce that fuels this industry is right now in a conundrum, and that we have to work with the state and federal partners to ensure that this workforce has the ability to get upskilled within these systems that we have. And I know that that's what the community college system is looking at, and so I'm looking forward to working with, again, our educational partners, our industry, the innovators that are out there thinking about what the future is, and also our state electeds. And one of the things that I will continue to do is educate my colleagues that are not from the Valley, that are not understanding what is happening here today, and that they need to pay a close attention to what is happening in the Valley and in our other regions where agriculture is extremely critical. Because I think a lot of folks tend to forget that food has to grow somewhere to be able to end up at a Whole Foods or at a Trader Joe's or at a Save Mart or at a Vons. And so sometimes there's a disconnect. And so I'm hoping to continue to be that voice to ensure that our Sacramento representatives understand the importance of investing in agriculture, investing in the ag tech and the innovation that is happening in our community for the sustainability and the future of food here in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. I'm really excited to bring up the vice chair of our Assembly Ag Committee, Juan Alanis, who comes from a little further north, Stanislaus County, where he previously, among other things, was a county sheriff. So Juan, please.
Hi, everybody. Linda, thank you very much. So I want to touch on some things real quick that the sheriff was talking about. As you guys know, as was just mentioned, I'm retired sergeant from Stanislaus County, and I used to work with ag crimes and everything else like that. And I get where the sheriff's coming from, and he's correct in every way, but we also need to do our part in making sure that we have those laws that make sure that we hold those accountable. So that's something I feel that we need to do on our part. So we need to also make sure that is being that is happening up in Sacramento. AgTech, great thing. I would have thought the first thing that AgTech would be automatic irrigation pipes or something, right? We have sprinklers that I can turn them on like that, but all my buddies are like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I got irrigation in the morning, right? It's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is a 2024, 25, I would think they'd already have stuff. And I know they do. They're working on that, but I would have thought it would have been here a long time ago. So back to legislation. It is and I'm happy to be working with the chair again. We worked with the committee last year. We're going to do some great things this year as well. And as she mentioned, we're going to make sure that our committee is very informed on what we are voting on and making sure that we pass that on to the rest of the legislature. Because I've only been at this is my only my second term. I've never been a politician before. I've been a cop my whole life, and I have noticed that there are a lot of votes made on issues they don't have a clue about. So that's something that we've decided that we're going to make sure that our committee at least is educated on what we're voting on and what we're pushing out. So that way we can make sure the rest of the floor knows it, so that way we're there for ag. One of the things that we're also going to make sure that we do is make sure that these mandates, that these policies are also in place to make sure that we support ag, that we are there for ag, that there are issues going on right now that I was made aware of last week with OSHA. Anybody here from OSHA? No OSHA people? Okay. So OSHA, here, let me make sure I get this right. So there was a ruling by OSHA in 2021 with a company that was working on autonomous vehicles, tractors, right? Stuff that we're talking about right now that's probably going on right now in some of the booths. It requires a person to be in the vehicle. That's what it requires. However, as you guys may know, we're going with technology right now. It's not doing that, and we're working on technology that's helping us, that's bettering us, that's making it better for labor, for the farmers, for agriculture, for making sure you have a great yield and everything else like that. So again, as legislators, it's our job to help support the ag community. So we're going to have to make sure that we go back and make sure that those kind of issues that may have been a mishap or maybe something that was an oversight. You got to remember, a lot of these laws were put on the books back in the 60s, 70s. You know, they didn't think that there was going to be a tractor that's going to drive itself. Right? So that's something that we need to make sure as legislators that we are making sure that we have policies, that we have laws, regulations that are put in place to help the ag community, so that way that they can thrive, that way they can continue to go. So that's a big part of what we're going to make sure we do. We should make sure we're modernizing our ag community, and that's what I think we're doing for the most part. And I'll just leave with this. You know, there's a lot of great things going on out there. I'm a drone guy. I founded our drone program with the sheriff's office because I saw the value that it had with my deputies as far as public safety goes, as far as the safety of those involved. And I see it especially being used with some of these sprayers. I'm sure you guys saw the big one up there earlier. If I don't have to have anybody near that sprayer where it's going, then I think that's something we should be doing all in the same. I look forward to seeing what else is going on. Who knows, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about something that, again, we had no idea about. But we want to make sure as legislators that we're making sure that we're keeping up with it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenda. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We have a video presentation from Congressman Brad Finstad, who serves on the House Ag Committee, in particular the Subcommittee on Nutrition, Foreign Ag, and Horticulture, and like myself, a former state director of USDA Rural Development, although he did it back in Minnesota where it's a lot colder than here right now, thank God. But before I do that, as that video's getting teed up, I do want to do another shout out to my newest employee. Leonel Jimenez is right here in the front row. Leonel just started last week as the area director for Tulare, Kings, and Kern County. So all of you locals are going to want to know him, but maybe give him a few weeks to learn the ropes and learn his way around the offices before you hit him up. But he's literally in charge of everything related to cooperative extension, our research, our programmatic activities down here, and I'm really excited to have him on the team. So thank you, Leonel. With that, I think we got a video to watch.
Hello everyone, Congressman Brad Finstad here. It is both an honor and a privilege to represent Southern Minnesota in Congress. And I am specifically proud to serve on the House Agriculture Committee. As a fourth-generation farmer raising the fifth generation, I understand firsthand the important role our farmers play in feeding and fueling the world. When I served as state director for USDA Rural Development in Minnesota, I had the opportunity to work with our rural communities, to stand up the Reconnect program to ensure every mile of farm country has access to broadband services. During my time in Congress, I have continued to introduce and champion legislation addressing challenges that farmers in rural America are facing today, including access to dependable and affordable broadband. As the world continues to evolve and technology advances, so too does the agriculture industry. Farmers have made incredible investments in innovation, adopting precision ag tools to help farmers increase production, decrease input costs, and improve conservation practices. My father would often say that he would retire as soon as the John Deere tractor drove itself. Well, today, my kids drive our tractors with an iPad. That being said, with innovation and technology comes new challenges. As precision agriculture continues to advance, reliable access to networks has become essential for our farmers to do their jobs efficiently. This highlights the importance of ensuring reliable broadband services not only extend to the last mile, but also the last acre of farm country. Last Congress, I introduced the Last Acre Act, legislation that would build out access to high-speed broadband across farmland by creating a new competitive USDA grant program, allowing the agency to address last mile and last acre connectivity across rural America. By designating this grant for eligible farmland, ranch land, and farm sites, the Last Acre Act will help drive innovation of the ag industry moving forward. This Congress, I'm excited to continue my work with the House Ag Committee to address the needs of farm country. It is critical now more than ever that we pass an effective farm bill that builds on the framework we developed last year, one that ensures farm policy meets the challenges of tomorrow. As we look forward, I remain committed to leading and supporting legislation that is written by farmers for farmers, and by rural America for rural America. By making critical investments in the infrastructure of our rural communities, we will ensure that our farmers will be able to continue their operations for generations to come. I appreciate all that you do to support the ag sector, and I look forward to more conversations about how we can work together to make farm country stronger and more prosperous. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes our program. I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I also want to assure you, this isn't just a couple hours where you got to hear from a lot of people and we got to hear from each other. That's important. But a lot of these speakers are going to be together this afternoon at a round table where we're getting into the details of how do we take the next steps? How do we ensure that the infrastructure's there, that the bandwidth, the speeds, the quality of service we need to really take advantage of AgTech here in the Valley? So with that, again, thank you so much for being with us, and go enjoy the Ag Show. So happy to have you here.